Imagine a classroom in which there are no limits, no boundaries, and no prescribed method for learning. Imagine a place in which students are not forced to learn in ways they aren't able to learn. Now imagine a school where learning happens in the classrooms, in the halls, in the cafeteria, at home, and on the way to practice. A school where collaboration, wherever you are, is the norm, and students have the freedom to explore and experiment with different learning techniques and methods to figure out what is most effective for them. It sounds pretty good, huh? Well, at Sparta Middle School, that is becoming the norm. The Sparta School District has gone one-to-one. Grades 6 through 12 were given their own Chromebook this year to take with them everywhere they are and to start to create an atmosphere where learning can happen everywhere, sometimes without our students even being aware. See, when you take away the idea that learning has a time and a place, you start to open up a world of possibilities. The learning environment almost sneaks up on you and presents itself when you least expect it. It is not uncommon to see students on their Chromebooks during lunch or in the hallways working on a Google document with a student from a different language arts class, or watching a video created by a teacher or from a resource such as the Khan Academy as part of the Flipped Classroom initiative. Kids adapted very quickly to the new expectations, and most are thriving in the environment. Our staff, while reluctant at first, have jumped in with both feet and have revamped their teaching styles to try new and innovative things in their classroom, as well as outside the classroom. They have gotten very comfortable posting things online, creating lessons that allow students to work at their own pace and in their own location. They also have gotten very comfortable stepping aside and letting this learning take over when the kids have the power and the opportunity to collaborate. Our goal in Sparta is to teach our students how to think and solve problems. We understand that students will need to become innovators and creators, and the jobs they will be competing for in the future will require a different set of skills. A set of skills that will change more times in their lifetime than in ours and our parents before us combined. Meeting diverse needs of individual students has always been a challenge for teachers. With only so many minutes in each class, or so many hours in a day, teachers have struggled to provide for gifted, average, and struggling students, as well as to honor all learning styles. Adding online learning experiences to face-to-face delivery has been one solution to these struggles, and research seems to point to the success of these hybrids. We have used most of these models here and there, but the two that our teachers use most are the face-to-face driver and the rotation model. The idea that permeates everything we do in relation to blended learning is the fact that students should be able to learn wherever and whenever they want to. For this, some might mean in class, and for others, this might mean at 4:30 p.m. in the car on the way to a soccer tournament. Our students should use school time for teacher instruction, and as a resource, they need to conduct the learning in the way that they learn best. Because most of our classrooms have students at various levels of mastery, this model works well across the board. Differentiation and individualized instruction becomes easier for the teacher when the students are in charge of the process by which they learn the material. Classroom teachers who regularly utilize learning stations will be very comfortable with this model. Students split time between face-to-face time with the teacher and online work. I'd say 90% of the teachers who use blended instruction at Sparta Middle School use a combination of both of these models. The next few slides show the obvious benefits of blended instruction in the areas of communication and collaboration, differentiation, 21st century skills, and global application. Two important things to note here are that blending learning addresses ISTE Standard 7, which defines the student as a global collaborator, and by having the opportunity to engage in authentic activities, we're helping to raise a social self-awareness and a global empathy that is really needed in today's society. Students here are within the four walls of the classroom, so at first glance, it looks like a traditional classroom setting. But if you look closer, you'll see that each student in this picture is at a different level of mastery, and each student is using a different skill set. Some students are using the Khan Academy to review classwork. One student is collaborating with a student down the hall on a project involving language arts and math, and yet another student is researching global warming in order to solve an authentic problem that he himself came up with. If you look closely at this picture, you'll see a student in the back with headphones who is actually on a video call with a student in another school 2 towns over, discussing a 20-time project, focusing on helping the environment by getting both schools' cafeterias to stop using styrofoam lunch trays. "3M started it in the 1950s with their 15% project. The result? Post-its and masking tape. Google is credited for making the 20% project what it is today. Google asks its employees to spend 20% of their time at Google working on a pet project, a project that their job description doesn't cover. As a result of the 20% project at Google, we now have Gmail, AdSense, Google News, and my favorite, the Google Teacher Academy. Using 20 time in the workplace allows innovative ideas and projects to flourish, or fail, without the bureaucracy of committees and budgets. This program was brought into the 8th grade this year by Mrs. Sofin, one of our 8th grade language arts teachers, and has been a huge success. It has been the epitome of blended learning and has helped teach our kids many new skills and has shown them how to succeed and fail gracefully and with purpose. There seem to be moral and ethical dilemmas with everything. Implementing a blended learning environment is no different. It's a paradigm shift that requires teachers, administrators, and students to think differently and let go of their preconceived notions and limits. So what is ethics? At its simplest, ethics is a system of moral principles. They affect how people make decisions and lead their lives. Ethics is concerned with what is good for individuals and society, and is also described as moral philosophy. The term is derived from the Greek word ethos, which can mean custom or habit. In implementing a blended learning environment, we had to break habits and change what was customary. One of the habits we fall into as teachers is lending pens and paper to students who don't have it with them. So as a district, we decided that we wanted to create self-sufficient students, so we did not provide loaners to the kids who forgot their Chromebook. In fact, they were given 3 strikes and then written up for discipline after the 3rd time. We are concerned with what is good for the individual and the society. Another dilemma we faced was allowing the tools for blended learning, like GAF, into the classroom as the norm, and giving the students the opportunity in school to misuse the technology, or rather use it to harm or bully other students. We decided to use a tool called GoGuardian to help classroom teachers monitor online use in their classroom. With this tool, however, we are also able to monitor students' use of the technology at home using the sparta.org login. The fact that we could monitor students at home was seen as unethical and still is by many people. The Sparta Acceptable Use Policy talks about the Anti-Big Brother Act and says that we will not use any of the device's capabilities in a manner that would violate the privacy rights of the child. We do, however, get notifications if a student is on a school inappropriate website and can monitor students' activity whenever we want to. This is an ongoing issue that we are navigating as we go because it is impossible to foresee all the possible scenarios ahead of time. Blended learning at Sparta Middle School is taking off for a number of reasons. The students have embraced it because the teachers were willing to try new methods of instruction. We put the technology in their hands, but they use the technology fearlessly and in a way that made sense in their classrooms. It has not been without its learning curves and bumps in the road along the way. But as we move forward, it will get easier, and as it gets easier, our teachers will be free to be more and more creative, which in the end will benefit our students exponentially.